Armoni Goodwin out for the remainder of the season. So, what does the rest of the running back group look like for the final game of the year against Texas A&M, and again moving into the SEC championship and beyond? Brian Kelly mentioned in his press conference, so I will break that down plus so much more on today's edition of Locked On LSU.
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, thank you for making Locked On LSU your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Plus, you can find us on YouTube as well. So you can watch the podcast as well as listen to it, whether you're on the go, whether you're at home, you can watch and you can listen. But my name is Caroline Fenton, and I'm your host, as I am every day. I'm an LSU grad. I've been covering LSU football since 2016, and I'm now a sports talk radio host in Nashville, Tennessee. But I want to get into exactly what the running back room looks like now that's been dwindling down a little bit. It was official. It was announced in the broadcast on Saturday against UAB that Armoni Goodwin is out for the remainder of the season. Josh Williams was out on Saturday. So what does the room look like? We'll get into that. But first, I want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Upside. Download the free Upside app and use promo code LOCKED to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. Like I mentioned, it was announced on Saturday in the game against UAB that Armoni Goodwin, I'm getting my running backs mixed up. Armoni Goodwin is out for the remainder of the season. And I kind of broke down on yesterday's podcast how detrimental that can be to this running back room, because we've seen John Emery, and John Emery has ball security issues. That was on full display on Saturday when John Emery fumbled the ball away twice, and one in a very, very critical situation when LSU's up 14-10 and they're driving into UAB territory. They make it to the UAB 8, and then John Emery fumbles the football. And no, UAB wasn't able to capitalize on either of those fumbles. They punted on those possessions. But still, that's UAB. What is, so to speak, Georgia going to do when they play in the SEC championship? See, that's the question there. So, what does the rest of the running back room look like now that Armoni Goodwin is out for the season? What's the deal with Josh Williams? He was out on Saturday. Brian Kelly was asked about Josh Williams' status. This is what he had to say.
Josh is making progress. As we mentioned, he had a knee sprain. We want to be very careful and take our time and bring him back accordingly. But each and every day, he's made the kind of progress necessary to hope that he could play this weekend.
So he's been making progress, a knee sprain. I don't really know exactly what that entails. It doesn't sound very comfortable. But also from the sounds of it from Brian Kelly, it sounds like he's going to play this weekend. I don't believe that Brian Kelly would even bring that up as a possibility of, getting ready to play this weekend if that wasn't a legitimate possibility on the table. You don't want to bring that up and then all of a sudden, that you suffer a setback throughout the week and then you're out on Saturday. So I at least expect Josh Williams to play on Saturday just based off of what Brian Kelly had to say. I don't know the severity of his injuries. That's also, pending how this week goes. But just from the sounds of it, if Brian Kelly seems optimistic on Monday, it seems like by Saturday he should be good to go. So that's the deal with Josh Williams. But, and I mentioned John Emery, but there's another member of this running back room that I haven't really talked a ton about throughout the season, because I don't really think he's done anything that's been, oh my gosh, shout out worthy. And not to say that this player isn't really talented and hasn't played a big role for this football team, but it for neither a positive nor negative reason has this player really stood out. And that's Noah Cain. And Noah Cain is a good running back. Noah Cain, and I said it yesterday, Noah Cain is not your kind of big chunk play, pop off for a 60-yard run, shove off defenders, kind of like a Derrick Henry type of running back. That's not the kind of back that Noah Cain is, but he is a reliable running back who has been able to stay healthy. And he's one of those guys, one of your go-to guys that you can count on. And so Brian Kelly was asked about Noah Cain and kind of what Noah Cain's role looks like now that Armoni Goodwin is out for the season. Does that role expand? Are we going to start seeing a little bit more of Noah Cain? This was what Brian Kelly had to say.
I think Noah Cain has helped himself, right? I mean, he's not flashy. I don't think he's going to be a guy that makes a ton of people miss, but does he really have to, right? He plays with low pads. He's physical. He's smart. He catches the ball coming out of the backfield. He's reliable in pass protection, and he's tough to bring down. I mean, I just think I mentioned 4 or 5 things that are pretty good to have. He doesn't have, maybe some of those, wow factors, but steady and physical. And I think he leads our team in rushing touchdowns in terms of the running back position. So it's been extremely effective for us.
So there you go. I mean, kind of reiterating the point that I was making yesterday and also just now of Noah Cain's not a flashy guy. Noah Cain is not a guy that defenses are going to scheme for and say, oh, we absolutely positively have to look out for this guy. But like Brian Kelly mentioned, he's reliable. And he is one of those guys that is physical and gritty. So I live in Nashville. I do sports talk radio in Nashville. I cover the Titans very closely. And Noah Cain, with the rest of this running back group, reminds me a lot of the running back duo that the Tennessee Titans have. Of course, like I just mentioned, Derrick Henry. He is a guy that every single defense that faces the Tennessee Titans is going to scheme for. He is the kind of guy that every defense in the NFL is scared of because at any moment, Derrick Henry can shove off defenders, can pop off for those 40, 50, 60-yard runs. Derrick Henry is one of the best players in the NFL, and for good reason. But I also look at the Tennessee Titans' third down back, Dontrell Hilliard. Now, Dontrell Hilliard, if you aren't a Tennessee Titans fan, or if you are a fan of another NFL team that has not played the Tennessee Titans this year, you've probably never even heard of Dontrell Hilliard, and that's fine. But Dontrell Hilliard is the type of player that is, a true third down back. He can catch balls out of the backfield. He can make defenders miss. He's always open in the end zone. He's always reliable. And that's what I think of Noah Cain as, is he's not your Derrick Henry. He's not your big chunk play, really big guy, but he's reliable and he's tough and he's physical and he's gritty and he can make plays. Not all your guys can be the go-to big play kind of guys. Sometimes you need some Dontrell Hilliards. Sometimes you need some Noah Cains. And that's not a bad thing. That just means that that's the very key position and the key role that he plays within this team. DYJ, that's a Bill Belichick thing. DYJ, do your job. That's Noah Cain's job, is to be that reliable, tough, gritty, and physical running back. His job isn't to, catch a 60-yard pass downfield. He'll catch those short passes out of the backfield. He'll be a good third down back. Noah Cain is a reliable guy. So he's not going to fill in for that spot left in Armoni Goodwin's absence, but he has been a reliable guy, and he will continue to be a reliable guy moving forward. So a little bit of a running back update. Now that Armoni Goodwin, it has been confirmed that he's out for the season. We can expect Josh Williams, at least I expect Josh Williams back on Saturday. Maybe you interpret Brian Kelly's words differently. I expect Josh Williams to be back on Saturday, which will be huge for this running back core. And also, while we may not see flashy plays from Noah Cain, I think we'll start to see a few more carries for Noah Cain as well. But coming up next, we saw a new face at the running back position, considering that this position is kind of dwindling down a little bit. What can we expect from that player moving forward? We'll get into that coming up next. But before we do that, I want to tell you about the Upside app. So inflation has been making all of us think about different ways than we can cut back. So some ways that I've cut back personally: I'm not getting my nails done as much. I'm not going out shopping as much because my necessities are costing me a whole lot more these days. So whether you've been driving less to save some gas or you're dining out less, we can all agree that there is nothing fun about less. So that's why I started using the Upside app. Upside is an incredible app for anyone who buys gas or groceries or dines out, so AKA all of us. But with Upside, I don't have to cut back because I get cash back on every single purchase. So I use Upside at the gas station. I use Upside whenever I go get my groceries, and I use Upside every time I go eat out. So even though I'm spending money, I'm getting that money back. So I can go and get my nails done. So I can go and shop for some Christmas presents, and I have some extra cash in my pocket. So to get started, download the free Upside app and use my promo code LOCKED, LOCKED, and get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. So then claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside, gas, groceries, going out to eat, and check in at the business. Pay as usual with your credit card or your debit card, and then you get paid. It's that easy. You get paid for spending money. You get paid for going to get groceries or gas, things that you do anyways. It is one of the best ways to earn cash back, even better than credit card rewards that you may get. So download the free Upside app and use promo code LOCKED to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. That's $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more using promo code LOCKED. Well, thank you for making Locked on LSU your first listen every day. So for your second listen today, check out Locked on Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights that only Locked On can provide. Locked on Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. So kind of breaking down what the running back room looks like now that this running back room will be without Armoni Goodwin moving forward, which is a huge hit for this running back room. But the good news for LSU's running back room is that there's a lot of talent, that there's 3 other guys, Noah Cain, Josh Williams, and John Emery, that can fill in those absences. But we saw another face on Saturday against UAB that I personally was not expecting to be suiting up at the running back position. And I don't know if you had the same reaction that I had when I saw Derek Davis go out there with the offense. I was like, what the hell is he doing here? What in the world is going on here? Derek Davis is a safety. What is he doing taking offensive snaps? I did a little bit of digging. I had no idea about this. I did not know this. Maybe you did. That he was the football player of the year for the Tribe Live, I believe it is. Tribe Live. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm so sorry if somebody's from Pennsylvania and can, nitpick my pronunciation. Essentially, this high school sports network. It was their football player of the year in the state of Pennsylvania after he rushed for 1,500 yards, 36 receptions, and 547 yards through the air, and a total of 28 touchdowns as a junior in high school. I didn't realize that Derek Davis was such a baller as a running back in high school. And so when he had his debut last year as a safety and on special teams, that's really all that I saw him as, was simply a safety. But I thought it was, you can view it 2 ways. You can view it as a desperation move by Mike Denbrock and Brian Kelly, just trying to bring in a little bit more offensive firepower, or you can view it and say, hats off to you for creativity. And I choose the latter, because while this running back room has been dealing with injury, Armoni Goodwin out, Josh Williams was out last Saturday, they had to do something with the running backs. So why not go ahead and use some of the resources that you already have? And no, Derek Davis didn't go out there and was running back 1 and all of a sudden, makes you think, wow, Derek Davis could be a running back now. He didn't do anything that flashy on Saturday. But I thought it was one thing that was just absolutely positively not on my bingo card on Saturday, was to see Derek Davis going in there taking snaps at running back. But Brian Kelly was asked about Derek Davis, what we can expect from him moving forward. Is he a running back now? This is what Brian Kelly had to say about Derek Davis.
Coach, what do you see from Derek Davis? I know the running back position was banged up last week. And what do you see from him just to get some carries later on, just during the week, make that move from safety to running back?
Should have moved him there sooner. I think what we saw that was his last game. He's at the 4-game threshold, and we want to preserve his year because we saw some talent there. So for the Derek Davis fans out there, you won't see him again. He's done for the year. But yeah, pretty excited about his future, and we want to preserve the years that he has left, and it doesn't make sense now to put him in a game and have that be the 5th game. That's not fair to him. He made a decision to help us out, and we're going to make sure we help him on his end too.
I've grown to just adore Brian Kelly's little quips at his press conferences. What'd you think about Derek Davis? Well, we should have moved him to running back a little bit sooner. But yeah, there you go. You're not going to see much more from Derek Davis. You are not going to see him be a running back any longer this season. Maybe he comes back next year and they're like, hey, if you can help us out on both offense and defense, then great. I don't expect that to happen probably. He came in here as a safety. I'm sure that he will continue to be just that, a safety. But I was really pleasantly surprised to see Derek Davis, somebody who I didn't realize was such a talented and gifted athlete on both sides of the ball. It was cool to see him get some time in there, but will redshirt this year and be back next year, and hopefully being a regular contributor to this football team. But coming up next, Brian Kelly always mentions the process and how he spoke of the UAB game and going into this game against Texas A&M, I think really emphasizes the process that he and this team are going through and will continue to go through. And I'll explain exactly what that means coming up next. But before we do that, I want to tell you about BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for sports betting information, stats, news, and analysis, so you can get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From football to basketball to soccer and esports, we've got it all on betonline.net. And the best thing about betonline.net, my favorite thing about it, is it's not just a sports book. It's not just a place to, put some bets out there and to win some money. It's also a place to get smarter. If you love sports podcasts, you can find those on BetOnline as well. If you like reading articles, you can find those on BetOnline as well. It is the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. So Brian Kelly was asked about kind of moving on from that game against UAB and kind of looking ahead to Texas A&M. And I thought his answer was very interesting. And I think his answer, as well as so many things that he has mentioned throughout the season, have all pointed toward one word that he has mentioned, one word that he has reiterated time after time after time, ever since that introductory press conference about a year less or so ago. And that word is process. And it was something that he mentioned very, very early on. And I never really thought anything of it. I just thought, okay, you're a new head coach. You're inheriting a little bit of a mess, a little bit being, the understatement of the century. It's gonna be a process for you to get your guys in here and for you to get your philosophy instilled here, for you to get buy-in from these players. Yeah, of course there's going to be a process. But Brian Kelly continued to use the word process and continued to reiterate that this football team is going through a process and exactly what that meant, that it wasn't just a buzzword, that it wasn't just something for Brian Kelly to say, that it was something that he really believed in, that this process was something that he illustrated and cooked up and had step by step by step, and understood the strengths and the weaknesses of this team, and understood the highs and the lows that could come of this process and how they would handle that. I'm starting to see so much more and more how Brian Kelly has kind of drawn up this process and to see how this team has gone through it. And he was asked about the UAB game in his press conference on Monday. And something stuck out to me about this quote. I want you to listen to it because to me, it emphasizes that word, process.
Each week for us is we're building something within our program. As I mentioned, the UAB game may not have been as important to other people outside the walls, but inside the walls, that was a huge game for us in terms of, doing our job, the way the job needs to be done, when it needed to be done. And that was really important for us. That was a big hurdle for us. And this is another one. It's going on the road against a really talented team that has nothing to lose, and you have to play well because they will play up to you. So I think we just think more terms of challenges within the program than particular wins at this point.
So I don't know why this struck such a chord for me, but I think him emphasizing just how big that win against UAB was proved to me that throughout this entire process, nothing is going to be taken lightly. That even against a win, a dominant win over a team that LSU should have beaten dominantly, even though UAB is a good team, even though UAB is as much better than their 5-6 record would indicate, UAB has really talented players. It's still a team that I think the entire country and you too probably viewed it as all right, they win, easy win on that schedule. And I think sometimes those kind of games can get lost within the process. That those kind of games either get, kind of thrown out as, not even mattering at all. But I think it's so important that Brian Kelly is embracing all of the good and the bad, however big or small it may be. Because when you place emphasis on a win or even a game against a team like UAB, then that takes the big game feeling away from games like Alabama. Then that takes a lot of the anxiety that I have to imagine away from games like the SEC championship that LSU is going to play in just a few weeks. Whenever you place a lot of importance on every game, then every game is just another game. Every game is not, oh my gosh, it's Alabama. It's just, this is what we have to do this week. And taking pride in those small wins, I have to believe, keeps them so motivated and so focused that it doesn't matter who your opponent is. It doesn't matter if it's UAB at home on senior night or if it's Georgia in Atlanta on the SEC championship. All of these games are important and all of these wins mean something. And I think that it shows a good bit of humility within this program, that was a really big win for that team. And to us, to me too, I was like, yep, UAB. Okay, great. Beat them on to the next. It's easy for us to think that. But within that locker room, that can be kind of a little bit of a toxic mindset. So I appreciated how Brian Kelly has placed so much importance on even the smallest of wins and has placed a lot of importance on even the biggest of blunders. I don't think that it's an accident that LSU got totally embarrassed by Tennessee in Tiger Stadium. And then all of a sudden, something just clicked. And all of a sudden, they're putting up 40 points a game and they're beating Florida, Ole Miss, and Alabama and, going on the road when they're all sick with the flu and beating Arkansas and securing their spot in the SEC championship game. I don't think that that's a coincidence. I think that's all part of the process. And part of the process is making a big deal of even the smallest of things, because the biggest of things might not seem so big. That's going to do it for me today. Coming up on tomorrow's episode, I want to break down some of the stories going on around the SEC because there is some freaking tea. Plus, the college football playoff rankings come out tonight. Where does LSU land? How is the committee viewing LSU versus maybe a USC or a Tennessee or a TCU? We'll get into that on tomorrow's episode. Make sure you check us out on YouTube as well. If you listen to the podcast, you can check us out on YouTube. But also, I'll be doing a Mailbag Wednesday on Wednesday's edition as well. So make sure to get your questions in. You can send them in on Twitter. You can tweet me. You can DM me. You can comment them on the YouTube page. Whatever you want to do, just get those questions, comments, concerns, whatever you want me to address in by Wednesday, and I'll make sure to get to those as soon as possible. But thank you for making Locked on LSU your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, but make your second listen Locked on Sports today. It's the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day, which is available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts.